Alright guys, welcome to the next video. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna put this in the miscellaneous section, but pretty much we're going to be covering structural disruptions. And what I mean by structural disruption is essentially a sequence of structure. Can be a double liquidity graph, doesn't necessarily have to be, but what this is essentially portraying is it emphasizes that price is showing a willingness to go in one direction via order flow and internal structure, and then have insufficient effort to give the full move and then completely reverse on you. And that is a derivative of showing its hand, because it's now shown the narrative in play that it showed willingness to go in one direction to then go in the opposite direction. So it can be seen, I would say I've seen this on every time frame. I'm going to show you a couple of scalp, minor intraday, major intraday moves, but it's usually a conjunction of at least two structural levels, whereas it could be scalp and micro, minor intraday and scalp, major intraday, minor. It's usually at least two, and that's because that internal structure is what's going to give you the sign of potential willingness in one direction to then give you, the real move per se. And I say that because it's subjective and the real move isn't shown until, after you've won the trade, but you get what I mean. So pretty much the main things I'm going to cover here is I want you to emphasize on focusing on the immediate range in play, because that is the only thing that you can react based on, right? Like I said, not prediction based, reaction based. With that, I mean, you make a play based on the order flow and structure given to then give you a potential scenario. And let's say if you lose, well, maybe if you lost is because you got a direction wrong, and that's why I say don't give up after the first scenario. Find the justified scenario, and that is where you're going to see your winners. So let's go ahead and get started with the examples. I'm sorry if they look a little blurry. I did a lot of these on my laptop, and now I'm putting them on the big screen, so hopefully it's not too bad. But anyways, right, in this first example, looking at AUDUSD, as you can see, right, we are already bullish, right? We're bullish for one. Two, as we come into the structural disruption, I'm analyzing the internal range to see where order flow will take me. So I see, right, that we potentially have a sign of bearishness. Why do I say that? Because we have a push to the upside, and then we have a low that isn't mitigated, but we have a push up to mitigate to create a break of structure, making this a solidified high. But this break of structure leaves relative equal lows. So potentially it could be a target, but remember, liquidity is not your source of excuse me, it is not where you derive your bias from. They're only targets. Anyways, right, as you can see, if you theoretically would have taken scenario here in continuation of order flow, that would have been a loss. That is the invalidation. So keep in mind, this is still bearish. So this still gives you a bearish move to the downside, but we're now looking at this M5 wick, and there could be a potential SC in here, and this unwillingness leads to a break of structure. So this gave us the willingness, the potential of giving us a downside move, failed, reversed, and now you get a discount to then get a move to the upside. So even if you took the loss here, this you would have at least already partialed out because of the potential target here. Excuse me. So here's the thing. After that, depending on where your entry was, you could have potentially been broken even here, right? But the invalidation was never taken out. Once again, relative equal lows, not an influencer of bias, but a target. So, however, this, although we did break structure here to give us a downside move, the final mitigation, I'm going to call it mitigation because we did not break the POI, led to a bullish liquidity grab in terms of high, low, break of structure, internal break of structure. That emphasizes a liquidity grab, and that emphasizes this is still a correct move. So even though if you got the good entry, it still would not be broken even, and this still has potential to go higher because of the liquidity grab. So the liquidity grab is then came to be mitigated, and then that is what led to the real move to the upside. So you see how the effect was created by the cause, right? Wyckoff rule. Moving on to the next example. This is actually the one we covered on Zoom. Today is August 6th, and I believe on last Tuesday's Zoom, we reviewed this, and this is another good example where we are bearish, right? The other one was a continuation. This is a reversal. So this, we're bearish. We break preliminary level of structure, right? Create a break of structure here, but that fails and that continues higher. So we have a recognized structural range here, which led to taking out the first preliminary level of structure in terms of this leg here. But this could be interpreted as a liquidity grab because this took liquidity and then broke 1-2 levels of structure. That's also why you got to emphasize solidified point and not just every structure point. But this came to mitigate this 30-second candle, gave a push to the upside. This is a premium. Let's say you could have, you could have potentially found an entry here and a continuation to the downside. But this could have either been broken even or you could have taken the loss there because we did not break the 50% of this POI here based on the internal structural range, which led to a new high and a new high. So once this new high is created, the bearish willingness here was then taken out, giving us a painted narrative. The narrative is now in play. As you can see, this is a M1, M2 inefficiency, I believe, and the invalidation is there, and that is still about a 3 pip stop, and that's already 15 pips up, which is already 1 of 5 at least. Plus, if you look at the trade at the time or at the Zoom where we reviewed it, this has a lot of potential to the upside. Anyways, right, as you can see, the transition occurred, but then the counter transition occurred, and that is where you capitalize. So even though you take a preliminary break even or even a loss, it can easily be recovered if you understand internal structure. Example 3, right? We are bearish, high, low, retracement, right? And although we have potential unwillingness right here, right? We do have, I don't have anything to mark with. Anyways, we do have a potential bullish liquidity grab, right? Because this was the solidified low because we took out the preliminary structure. This is now potential unwillingness of high, low retracement, unwillingness, liquidity grab potentially. But then we ended up breaking structure, took in liquidity, and then gave a very bullish scenario. That is giving us a bullish narrative, right? Based on structural rules. So this is a justified bullish scenario because we have the bullish breaker structure, the bullish liquidity grab, a potential conversion, and that's how you get a very big trade. However, just as easily as we converted to bullish, we can convert back to bearish. So immediately after the reaction here, about 20 pips up, we see bearish mitigation. This does not mean sell, by the way. This is an aggressive sell that I probably wouldn't take the sell if I'm being honest. But this mitigation leads to an internal disruption and a new breaker structure. So you can see a high and a low. So even though we have the disruption, we are now in harmony with our structural range. So even though we pulled back, gave another potential liquidity grab, the structural range is in play and the other structural range is in play. So as you can see, the bearish order flow here dictates another move to the downside, and there's conservative entry, continuations, continuations, continuations. But the picture I'm trying to paint here is the fact that just as easy as we converted to bullish here and we got the reaction to the bullish side, just as easy we can get back to being bearish. And just because we are bearish, right, we can find those premium entries and find those continuations, right? So this square, this is my mistake, this square should be here, right? Because this is high, low, continuation. This is now a solidified low, solidified high. So it should be that range. That's my bad right there. Anyways, next example. As you can see, we are bearish. We are bearish, right? But we have a potential liquidity grab here because we take liquidity and then give a bullish bias. But in reality, this could just be taking liquidity and it is just the pullback of high, low retracement. Either way, from a medium term, this is a justified bullish scenario because of the bullish liquidity grab. So this, although we did not create a new high, we took preliminary structure, but then we came to mitigate again, right? And we actually took preliminary structure there. But we are not creating a substantial new high based on this high. And by substantial new high, I mean up here. So this means that it's taking a lot of effort for this to push up. So what happens in effect? As you can see, liquidity was taken, excuse me, and this created a bearish liquidity grab because we came to take out the low and we were unwilling to make a substantial new high. So this is now bearish high, bearish low in harmony with our structural range. So that now means that this premium entry is justified. So you can see a bullish scenario, a bearish scenario. Both are justified, both are okay to take, okay? Now, as we zoom in here, just the same thing here. As you can see, we have our high, which we are unwilling to break. We have a justified bullish scenario, right? And we have the internal liquidity grab, which dictates the bearish bias. All you need to do is get the entry from a premium there. And that generates a big move to the upside. Why? Cause effect. See what I mean? Final example, right? This is actually today during NFP this morning, right? So as you can see, we are bearish. Structural range is bearish. This was a M30, it's an M15, but this is an M30, M30 inefficiency film, sorry. And this is a solidified high because we take preliminary structure. However, after we take preliminary structure, we convert to a bullish bias because of the bullish liquidity grab, right? So not only that, we have high momentum and then low momentum to the downside. But just as I said before, we can convert one way, we can convert the other way. So once we start zooming into this range, right, we can see a POI, the wick, right? This creates a reaction that's a solidified high. This is a justified bullish scenario. Even here is justified bullish scenario. But this post mitigation does not create a new high. We don't even challenge the new high, but we don't even challenge the preliminary high. But that inevitably leads to an internal disruption and a new internal structural range. So because this new structural range is now in harmony with our original bias, right? Although the minor intraday or anything in between may be bullish, this is now bearish because this is now in harmony. And so this entry here is only a premium, and this premium generates a new low. And even just looking at this is 26 to 86, it's already 40 pips, right? So as you can see, right, it's all about the detail. It's all about emphasizing, right, where price is, how price is reacting from desired price, and whether or not the conversion is going to go into continuation or if it's going to go in terms of a reversal. So that pretty much emphasizes the study of ranges, which is what being a Wyckoffian is, right? A Wyckoffian is not somebody who annotates a range with the schematic prints and calls it a schematic. That is not a Wyckoff trader. A Wyckoff trader is an individual, a trader who trades trading ranges, dissects them, and understands the internal properties that pretty much generate the showing its hand portion that that I always talk about. And it's until that is shown that you can make a prediction or a reaction off of, or to create a new high, low, whatever it is that you're looking for. And that is essentially the whole aspect of being a Wyckoff trader: studying ranges, right? Understanding internal order flow, structure, momentum, volume, measuring effort based on that, right? And then understanding that the cause is the range. So now the effect is going to be based on what happens inside of the cause, right? And so that, is going to all coincide to create what we call here a structural disruption. But in reality, all you're doing is measuring order flow and structure internally based on the narrative that's in play and a medium higher term bias. So yeah, hope that makes sense, and I'll see you guys in the next video.